Imagine trying to measure the exact distance to a car entirely by the sound of its engine, while the driver constantly changes lanes. That is exactly the mathematical nightmare an American Los Angeles-class attack submarine was dealing with at 4:37 local time, 20 nautical miles south of Sri Lanka. The Americans were hunting the Iris Dena, one of Iran's few remaining surface combatants, but the Iranian captain knew exactly how to stay alive. He was desperately hammering the ocean with active sonar pings and zigzagging his ship at 15 knots. Every 3 to 5 minutes, he swung the ship on random course changes. This tactic exploited a fatal weakness in American submarine stealth. When a sub is hiding, it relies entirely on passive sonar. Passive sonar only gives the direction of a target, not the distance. It is like using the compass on your phone instead of a GPS map. You know which way to look, but the target could be 1 mile away, or 10. To get a firing solution, the American fire control technician uses an algorithm called Target Motion Analysis, or TMA. He watches the Iranian ship's bearing shift 1 slow degree at a time, triangulating range, course, and speed. It is like a blurry photo slowly coming into focus, but every time the math almost lined up, the Iranian captain zigged. The data scattered. The Americans had to start completely over, crawling toward a new solution that the Iranian would just blow apart 90 seconds later. But the zigzagging wasn't what terrified the American crew. The real nightmare was sitting strapped to the Dena's aft flight deck. It was an SH-3 Sea King helicopter carrying a low-frequency dipping sonar. Right now, the American submarine was hiding 400 feet below the surface, protected by the Thermocline. This is a thermal shield where warm surface water meets freezing deep water. It acts exactly like a lens, bending the Iranian ship's sonar pings upward and completely painting over the submarine. To the Iranian radar screens, the ocean looked empty, but a dipping sonar is designed to bypass that shield entirely. The Sea King helicopter hovers, drops a microphone straight through the thermal layer, and pings from the exact same acoustic environment the submarine is hiding in. It is the acoustic equivalent of hiding behind a curtain while someone casually walks around to your side of the room. If that helicopter launched, the Americans had a brutal choice: shoot immediately before the chopper established a search pattern, or dive deep and lose the target entirely. And time was bleeding out. Expendable sensors showed the protective thermal layer was thinning. The sub had maybe 6 to 8 hours before their thermal shield degraded completely. Worse, the Dana was steaming parallel to the Sri Lankan coast. In exactly 40 minutes, she would cross the 1-2 nautical mile territorial limit. Once she crossed that invisible line in the water, international law made her totally untouchable. The submarine needed authorization to kill, but the order couldn't reach them 400 feet underwater. Extremely low-frequency radio carries almost zero bandwidth. It is basically the world's most expensive text message just saying, "Call me." To download the firing authorization, the sub had to rise to periscope depth and stick a communications mast above the water. But the Dena's ASR 3D radar was violently sweeping 360 degrees, scanning the surface for exactly that kind of small metal tube. One sweep, and the Iranian operator gets the exact return he is hunting for. So, the American navigator pulled off an absolutely brilliant tactical hack. A massive 200,000-ton South Korean liquefied natural gas tanker was plowing through the corridor 5 miles away. The navigator perfectly aligned the submarine along the exact line of bearing between the tanker and the Iranian warship. When the submarine breached the surface, its metal mast sat completely inside the tanker's massive radar shadow. It is the military equivalent of sneaking across a room by staying directly behind someone much bigger than you. If the Iranian radar painted anything at all, it looked like a harmless ghost reflection from the massive steel merchant ship. The submarine grabbed the satellite link, downloaded the kill order, and dove back beneath the thermal layer like a ghost. At 4:53, the fire control team finally locked the mathematical solution. The weapons officer programmed a Mark 48 ADCAP torpedo into Tube 1. The torpedo tube flooded with pressurized seawater, a sharp, violent acoustic snap that a trained enemy sonar operator recognizes instantly. The American crew held their breath, betting everything that the ambient roar of the shipping lane and a million snapping shrimp would drown out the sound of their launch. The 3,500-pound weapon dropped from the tube. It used a high-tech pump jet propulsor, meaning there were no exhaust bubbles and no cavitation trails leading back to the submarine. The Mark 48 left absolutely no visual signature. But there was a terrifying catch. The torpedo was connected directly to the submarine by a hair-thin wire spooling out behind it. Through this wire, the American technician manually steered the weapon at 55 knots, threading it perfectly through the busy shipping lane to avoid hitting a civilian merchant vessel. This meant the submarine was chained in place. If the sub maneuvered too aggressively, the cable would snap clean off, and the torpedo would go completely autonomous. At 5 miles out, the Iranian ship zigzagged again. The American technician quickly adjusted the torpedo's course through the wire. Every single course correction ate up more wire, lowering the margin of error between a guided weapon and a very expensive noisemaker. At 2 miles out, the Mark 48 woke up. Its onboard 2D phased array seeker started pinging active, high-frequency sonar. It locked onto the 1,500-ton Iranian frigate almost instantly. On the Dena, a sonar operator caught the exact sound every sailor on Earth prays they never hear. An active ping, closing fast, with a consistent bearing. Consistent bearing means the weapon is not passing by. It is coming right for you. He hit the alarm, but there were only 15 seconds separating that moment from impact. The frigate needed hundreds of meters to turn, and the crew had zero time to authorize and drop acoustic decoys into the water. The American fire control technician didn't aim for the side of the hull. He steered the torpedo directly beneath the ship. The Mark 48's magnetic influence fuse detected the massive steel belly of the Dena overhead. It detonated perfectly beneath the keel, the structural spine of the entire ship. The underwater explosion created a superheated gas bubble that expanded upward with enough sheer kinetic force to lift the Dena's 1,500-ton stern clean out of the Indian Ocean. Imagine picking up a heavy steel ruler by both ends and bending it until it violently snaps. For a fraction of a second, the frigate hung in the air with absolutely nothing beneath her keel. The bubble collapsed, the massive stern crashed back down, and the keel broke in two. Within minutes, 94 meters of Iranian naval engineering folded completely in half and slipped beneath the black water of the Indian Ocean. The American submarine stayed deep beneath the thermal layer, its nuclear reactor humming silently, as if it had never been there at all. But here is a tactical question for you. With modern anti-submarine helicopters becoming faster and dropping more advanced dipping sonar, do you think massive, expensive attack submarines will survive the next decade of naval warfare? Or will unmanned, silent drone subs take over the ocean?